Welcome to the deep dive. You know, if you feel like the world is just constantly yelling at you to be louder, go faster, always be on, well, this deep dive might be exactly what you need.
Yeah, we've been looking at some really fascinating source material that actually argues for the complete opposite approach to getting ahead.
Exactly. We're exploring this pretty counterintuitive power that comes from silence, from stillness, and how moving away from that feeling of desperation, constantly chasing validation,
Right.
how that actually leads to a quiet confidence.
A natural attraction, even.
Right.
So our goal today really is to sketch out a kind of strategic blueprint for you.
Yeah.
One that really pushes back against that constant hustle message.
Okay.
We're digging into how things like restraint, careful observation, and genuine patience, things often dismissed as, I don't know, passive,
Yeah, weak sometimes.
right, weak, how they're actually really powerful tools for finding clarity, building up resilience, and, well, drawing the right opportunities and people to you.
And the sources, they hit you right away with this core paradox, don't they? It's something you notice when you just sort of watch people.
Hmm.
Isn't it often the loudest person in the room? The one always talking, always trying to prove something, always chasing that pat on the back. Isn't that person often, well, the weakest?
It often seems that way. While the person who really holds the power, the one kind of controlling the situation,
Hmm.
they often move in silence.
It's that difference, isn't it, between needing everyone else to tell you you're okay versus just owning your own integrity internally.
Exactly. Real power doesn't need a constant round of applause. You just feel it in someone's presence.
Yeah.
And the sources suggest that the second you stop, you know, forcing things, begging, exhausting yourself, trying to explain yourself or your worth to people who, frankly, don't deserve that energy.
That's the moment things start clicking into place.
That's the moment your life really starts to align, yeah.
Okay, let's unpack that first big idea then. Silence as a strategy. Because it's clearly more than just, keeping quiet. My first thought, and maybe yours too, listening, is that, well, in a really high stakes situation, work or personal life, being silent could look bad, right? Like you're not interested or you're passive or maybe you just haven't done your homework. How did the sources handle that?
That's a really important point. And the sources are clear. This powerful silence isn't about the absence of words. It's about the presence of, let's say, heightened awareness.
Okay, presence of awareness.
We're not talking about just avoiding the conversation. We're talking about an active discipline. It's resisting that immediate urge to jump in, to react, to speak.
And that gives you,
It gives you time to listen properly, not just to the words, but, what's behind the words.
yeah.
The motivations, the context, the sort of energy underneath all the noise.
So it flips silence from being defensive, like hiding, into something more offensive, or maybe just active intelligence gathering?
Exactly right. Active. True
Yeah.
strength isn't about how fast you can fire back a reply. It's about the discipline you show in those moments of restraint.
Mm-hmm.
And that discipline, it gives you back immediate control. Think about it. If someone's trying to provoke you or maybe back you into a corner,
Your silence becomes a boundary.
it's a boundary, absolutely.
Oh.
It protects you from saying something impulsive you'll regret later. And it stops you from getting dragged into these pointless battles that were probably just set up to drain your energy anyway.
I really liked the analogy the sources used about leadership and strategy, like the really effective leaders, the visionaries. They don't waste words. They don't telegraph their moves.
No, they move more like a really good chess player.
Okay.
The amateur player might talk about their plan, maybe warn their opponent, rush their pieces out there.
Yeah, gets excited.
Right. But the master sits there quietly, reads the whole board, studies the other players' habits, their little tells, and waits. Waits for just the right moment to make that move they planned, 5 steps back.
Well, the person who talks too much.
They basically hand over their whole blueprint, don't they? They reveal their plans, their anxieties, maybe their weaknesses, without even realizing it. The person who just observes, they tend to win.
So that silence is like this ultimate preemptive self-protection tool. But then the sources get really interesting about personal relationships too. They say silence is the quickest way to see the truth about people.
Absolutely. That silence, it creates this kind of vacuum, a space.
Okay.
You don't need to chase after loyalty, the sources say.
Yeah.
You just have to watch. You don't demand respect. You just need to be still and see how people actually treat you when you stop performing for them.
When you stop trying so hard to keep their attention or get their approval.
Precisely.
Ah.
If someone's true colors aren't great, your silence gives them the room to show it. And that can save you, well, weeks, maybe years of being misled.
Wow. That kind of clarity, though, It feels like something most people actively try to avoid, because maybe they're scared of what the silence will reveal. So they fill the space with noise, their own noise, other people's noise, just to keep that maybe comfortable delusion going.
I think that's often true. Real power, though, it's felt in that solid, kind of unshakable presence.
Mm.
It doesn't need volume to get attention. It earns it through observation, through being selective about when and how you engage.
Okay, let's use that idea of internal control as a bridge to the second big theme, the irony of chasing and the magnetism of stillness. Because if we've managed to embrace that silence, we've naturally stopped that desperate running around looking for recognition or chasing opportunities, right?
Yes, and this taps into a really critical psychological principle the sources highlight. Desperation repels what you desire.
Say more about that. Repel.
Yeah. When you're chasing success or relationships or even just respect,
Mhm.
you're sending out this energy of lack or
Right.
neediness.
Like you don't have it already.
Exactly. That frantic energy tells the world you believe you're missing something essential. And generally, things of real value, high-quality stuff people. They are really drawn to a space that feels deficient.
The classic butterfly analogy comes to mind here. The sources use it well.
Oh yeah, it's perfect.
You chase a butterfly, it flutters away every single time. But if you just stand still, maybe focus on, cultivating a beautiful garden, cultivating yourself, that butterfly might just land gently on your shoulder.
It's a great image. The message is so clear. Stop grasping, stop running after things, focus inward, build your own value, and things start gravitating towards you.
And tied into this is avoiding what the sources call the validation trap.
The validation trap. They call it a silent addiction, which is pretty strong language.
It is that constant need for approval. Checking your phone for likes, tweaking what you do based on feedback, changing your personality to fit the room. We all kind of know that feeling, right?
We do. And when you rely on that external stuff, applause, likes, attention to feel like you're worthwhile, you're essentially just handing over the controls of your own destiny to other people.
And the really unfortunate side effect is by constantly chasing, constantly trying to prove yourself, maybe being too available, you actually diminish your own value in other people's eyes.
You do. You're basically teaching people how to treat you, aren't you?
How so?
Well, your actions are sending a message. Like, I'm willing to stretch myself thin, ignore my own boundaries, lower my standards, just to keep you around, whether you're a client, a friend, a partner.
And when they sense that they're more important to you than you are to yourself?
Exactly. They stop respecting your time.
Yeah.
They start taking you for granted. Why? Because you've shown them they don't really have to put in any effort to keep you. You'll do all the work.
So the antidote is embodying that quiet, unshakable confidence. The sources talk about the lion.
Right. The lion doesn't have to roar every single minute to prove it's a lion.
It just is.
It just exists. With this quiet authority, in a professional setting, how does that look? It might be the person who doesn't get into arguments about who gets credit, who doesn't feel the need to dominate every meeting with loud opinions, who doesn't panic if they're not the center of attention for 5 minutes.
They contribute effectively, but maybe more precisely.
With precision, with clarity, and they let their track record, their actual work, speak for itself. Their value isn't tied to the mood of the room or, the latest trend. It's intrinsic, and people sense that.
And thinking about personal boundaries again, absence becomes a powerful teacher here too.
A crucial one. When you consciously decide to pull back a bit, and this isn't about manipulation, it's about genuine self-respect.
People start to notice you're not there in the same way.
Yes.
Right.
It forces them, maybe for the first time, to actually confront what they were taking for granted.
That clarity sounds like it could be painful sometimes.
It can be brutal, honestly, but it's necessary. If someone lets your absence just slide by, if they don't even register that shift in energy, that effort you've withdrawn,
Then the answer is pretty clear.
the sources say that is the definitive answer. You were never truly valued in the way you thought or hoped. And now you know. Now you're free to move on. Absence reveals priorities that words often hide.
Okay, that leads us really nicely into our final section. Patience, consistency, and trusting the timeline. It really feels like the foundation for all of this moving in silence, attracting through stillness. It all rests on having immense patience.
It really does.
But we live in such an instant gratification world, don't we? How do we stop seeing patience as just waiting around or even weakness and reframe it as a genuine strength?
We have to reframe it as perhaps the highest form of discipline.
Discipline.
Think about what impatience costs us. The sources warn it leads to, well, desperate decisions. Settling for less than we deserve, maybe in relationships or jobs.
Taking shortcuts that end up costing more in the long run.
Exactly. And maybe worst of all, quitting. Quitting just when things get tough
Yeah.
or when the results aren't showing up immediately.
And that moment you quit.
Yeah.
It's often just before the breakthrough, isn't it?
So often. It's heartbreaking when you think about it.
And structurally, thinking about building things, great things just take time, right? Like those huge skyscrapers.
Perfect example. You absolutely cannot rush laying the foundation.
Well, that unseen work.
Right. The market testing, building strong teams, establishing trust, that deep, often invisible foundation work is what keeps the whole thing standing for decades. Rush that. The whole structure is compromised. It'll likely crumble.
And a lot of the most important growth, it happens beneath the surface where you can't even see it.
Yes. This is where the seed analogy from the sources is so powerful. You plant a seed, you water it, you wait.
You don't see anything for a while.
Nothing above ground. But underneath the soil, that seed is working hard, growing roots, building its foundation, getting stronger.
And if you get impatient,
If you quit too soon,
yeah.
if you, as the sources say, dig up your seeds just because they aren't growing fast enough, you literally destroy all that vital, invisible progress you've already made.
So patience isn't passive. It's not doing nothing. It's about sticking with consistent effort, even when you don't see the reward right away. How can you, the listener, actually sustain that consistency when things feel slow, when you're in that waiting period?
That's the practical challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
The sources suggest focusing on what you can control the process rather than what you can't always control the outcome.
Okay, so instead of, I need to make X amount of money this month.
Right, which you can't fully control. Focus on something like, okay, today I will spend 2 hours actively developing this skill, or I will make those 5 consistent outreach calls.
Small daily disciplines.
Exactly. When you focus on those achievable daily actions, patience becomes much more manageable because you're still getting small wins every single day. You're building momentum, even if the big result isn't there yet.
And finally, we just have to let go of needing to control the ultimate timeline, don't we? Especially when we look around and compare our journey to everyone else's carefully curated highlight reel online.
Oh, absolutely. Comparison is the thief of joy, they say, but it's also the thief of patience.
Yeah.
Your path is unique, and sometimes those frustrating delays. The sources remind us that delays aren't denial.
Their preparation.
Often, yes. Maybe things are taking longer because they're meant to be built stronger, to be more resilient, to become more deeply part of who you are. Everything unfolds, the idea goes, exactly when you are truly ready for the success that's coming.
Wow. Okay, so this whole deep dive, it really offers a profound shift in strategy, doesn't it? The power we're looking for isn't out there in the noise or the frantic activity.
No, it's found in that internal discipline, in restraint.
We've seen that real strength is built in stillness, that wisdom often lives in the quiet moments.
And maybe, most importantly, that what is truly meant for you, what's genuinely yours, will never require you to kind of lose yourself or betray your own values, just to hang on to it.
Right?
So by mastering these things, silence, stillness, patience, you start moving through life differently, with more purpose, more precision, more clarity.
You trust yourself more, your own value.
And you start to trust the timing of things too. That in itself is a form of mastery.
So as you go about your week, let's leave you with one final thought to really chew on, something sparked by this material. What if the single most powerful move you could make right now in your career, in your personal life, wherever, isn't some big, loud action? What if it's consciously deciding to pull back a little, to remain silent for a moment, and just let the absence of your usual energy or your explanation, let that absence force the clarity, let it reveal the undeniable truth of whatever situation you're facing?
What if you just let the world come to you for a change?
Something to think about.